So let's move on to kind of some of the final pieces here as we look towards the end of our workshop. I'm just going to run through the last few pieces in the application. Would love to have any questions or feedback as we do this. So please let me know. Let me pull my chat window back up so I can see it real quick. Okay.
And I promise I won't interject on Mr. Ray's comments here, because I got a text message from him that said, geez, come on, Benson, shut up. So
that was all in fun, Mr. Benson. That was all in fun.
I know. I thought I'd lighten up the mood here because, you know, this has been so exciting.
What's so funny, Mr. Watkins? Yeah, it's I'm sure you guys have been through it with the virtual learning and stuff like that. So now it's our turn. But I appreciate everybody being attentive, asking questions and whatnot. And if you've got any more, please let me know. But let's talk a little bit. I don't have a whole lot left, to be honest with you, but let's talk about the resume. The big thing here is, before I forget to tell you, you don't need to have any dates after whatever year this application ends. A few years ago, that was a disqualify. You could get disqualified for that. I believe they're not as harsh on it now. I think they just give a 0 for the resume portion. But you know, when it comes down to it, a 0 for having, for example, if proficiency is going to this year's national convention, would have ended with the 2019 records. Okay, so you shouldn't have any 2020 dates on your resume for that proficiency application. And if that were to be the case, they would probably just score that section as a 0, I believe is what they've been instructed, because theoretically that says that that kid is trying to basically get an added advantage over other kids that followed the rules. I guess is their mindset on that. So I wouldn't even push the envelope on any dates like that, whether it be an officer position or anything. Just make sure you don't have any of those dates. But of course, you're looking at adding value. I know that's pretty easy to fill out on the application online. You're just kind of entering this stuff. But there are some formats that you need to be aware of. You need to make it easy to read for the judge. I believe I saw a resume one time where it was almost in paragraph form. And that's not too easy to read, especially whether it's at the state or nationals or even at the area level. For us trying to look through a resume, be very careful about that and just make it easy to read. You don't want to ever make the judges have to fish or, you know, go to more effort than they should in order to view things and get a picture of what your application is. So I'll go ahead and take any questions about the resume or anything Mr. Benson would like to add.
Right.
Okay. All right, so resume, we're 3 points. And then moving on, photos, which I'm sure a lot of you just sit there and like pull your hair out, because it's hard enough getting these kids to take photos, let alone having good photos. So on the pictures, with the new system, horizontal pictures work best. I know you can't really edit the pictures once you put them in there, so try to take them horizontally so they will fill up the page, because otherwise you'll get comments on your application about how to take them, what is that, landscape, I guess, rather than the other way. So if you take them horizontally, that's a lot better. Makes the picture fill up the page a little bit. Also, make sure that they are action shots. So obviously the kid needs to be doing a skill in their project. Try not to make them as cameo or whatever the word is as possible, where it's just like looks staged. Try to have the student in there with their face doing something so you can tell it's them. Those action shots definitely go a long way with the judges, but also in order to give a caption to help explain exactly what they are doing. So just make sure that they are doing a skill that's hopefully listed within their project, because these photos are going to help reinforce what they've already talked about several times. So obviously if they need safety glasses, they need to be wearing them, but avoid certain things. Like if they've got a hat on, sometimes it might cover their face, so it might be hard to tell what they look like, or if that's them. But these pictures are going to bring the project to life. They may not be worth a ton. As you can see, they're 6 points, but in the long run, they really help provide validity to the whole application. Okay. And in these photos, you want to make sure that you have a variety of skills. We've seen applications where the kid's doing like the same thing in 3 of the pictures. Try to get a bunch of different skills. If you're struggling with what skills to take pictures of, you need to be looking back at your application at what the student is listed, either in the skills, competencies, or knowledge, or in their responsibilities that they listed, how they've grown, or even maybe they listed something in their efficiency factors that you can have a picture of. So try to use those other areas of the application to help figure out what photos you want. And I would always take more than I need, because if you have 8 really good ones, you could always put 2 that you couldn't use here on your personal page to help strengthen the application. Start early on this. Of course, I know we mentioned earlier about don't wait to the last minute. Well, you sure as heck can't wait to the last minute on taking pictures, or you may just end up with a couple of blank pages, and I know you don't want that. So start early in the summer taking pictures. Maybe you're even taking pictures for 2 or 3 years. Go visit the project at different points. So obviously in the pictures, it helps if they are wearing different clothes, so you can see the different times of the year throughout the project. You can see the growth. I remember I had an application at one point where there was a picture in there of the kid as a sophomore working on something, and then he was doing something else as a junior, and then as a senior. It was a nice way to really show how the project's grown, the different skills. I mean, that's not always easy or possible to do, but it certainly helps, or it was noticed by the judges. So try to use that as a way to show growth and way to show the skills that they've learned. Don't start the captions with "in this picture I am." Just start describing the skill that's being done. We can tell that that's the student in the picture, so they don't need to start that caption with "in this picture" or "I am doing this, this, and this." Maybe they're maintaining, one of their pieces of equipment, and you start the caption as "regular maintenance is an important part of ... So I would encourage you on the captions to do that and really be descriptive. Again, going back to the do's and don'ts, really be descriptive and specific in this, mentioning model numbers or acres that are being used in that picture, but use that description. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I see one. What advice would you give about pictures for a student with an ag mechanics SAE where they weld fabricate for a majority of their project? Well, I would again have to go back and ask what kind of skills are they doing. Obviously, they're welding. Is there anything else that goes into that when they fabricate? Ben?
Yeah, are they taking pictures of drawing up plans? Are they at the welding supply store and they're buying, you know, supplies? There's plenty of, you know, they doing different types of welds. So
Yeah, are they using different pieces of equipment? And if so, maybe you show different skills at different stages of the project to show how the project's coming along, not just different skills the same day where you can't see one project kind of at the beginning and nearer to the end, would also help. So. And then Melissa Webb gives a website to help format your pictures to a horizontal one is Pixlr. I like all you techies out there. I don't know. I'm learning more and more every day, but I have not heard of that one. Does anybody else have anything to add or any suggestions regarding pictures? Melissa asked if a student works in a biosecure facility and is in a uniform in all the pictures, how would or could that affect the pictures? We're talking like biosecure, like where they have a helmet on and everything, kind of like in an ag mechanics shop if they have a welding helmet on or something like that.
I'm talking about like in a chicken house. They have to have, you know, Tyvek top to bottom sort of situation in everything they do in the chicken house, doing different things.
Yeah, I would just say you're going to have to probably get that student's face in there one way or the other. Now, are they wearing a full face guard or is it just like a hairnet and they're wearing the jumpsuit deal?
Just like the jumpsuit, and her hair is pulled back, but no hairnet or anything like that. But it is that same jumpsuit outfit that she has to wear every time.
Yeah, I don't think that would affect. I would certainly observe any of the biosecure guidelines, or else there's going to be questions about that in the long run. And if you can see that student's face, I think that would be fine.
Melissa?
Just do.
I'm sorry, but this is what I would do. In the very first picture in the caption, whatever skill that the student is doing, I would also in the caption include that, you know, a biosecurity outfit or whatever is worn every single time in the chicken house. So in the first caption that they read, they understand that if there's any pictures taken in the chicken house, it's always going to be with that jumpsuit on.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Last but not least, well, not last, we got two more, I guess. So we got instructors or employer statement, 3 points. I'm going to try to put this fairly nicely, but if you don't have enough good things to say about your student's SAE in a page, then I wouldn't expect it to go too far in the judging, if that makes sense. So don't shortchange your students when it gets to this point, and just give a paragraph about why they, you know, about their SAE. The other thing about this is make sure you're talking about their SAE. I mean, I'm sure Johnny is a great kid and him being an officer is awesome, and that's good for him, even if he was a state officer or something like that. But you really need to think on these things, the pictures, the instructor and the employer statement and the personal page. you need to think about how you can add value. And this is a proficiency application for their SAE, so it needs to talk in depth about their SAE. We've heard from the student for the past several pages of this application. Now this is the instructor or the employer's statement about that supervised agriculture experience. So it really needs to add value to their project or their program. So
the body of the letter needs to focus on how far the student has come in this project, the skills that they can do, the dedication that he has to the SAE. And yeah, being a great kid is frosting on the cake. But this application is not about the personality of the kid, that they get along with everybody and has been a good officer. Also, Brandon, if I can say, I'm sorry for butting in, but
that's right.
Look professional. It needs to be on letterhead. It needs to be well drafted. The grammar needs to be good, and it needs to be signed.
And of course, as everybody reminded me, the statement part is no longer required. For some reason, I was thinking that they still had to do one, and it used to be 2 of these. But is that not the case anymore?
Well, you can use a statement for a personal page.
But yeah, that's true. So if you do end up using an employer's or instructor statement for a personal page, make sure you follow those guidelines. That's a good point.
Yeah, and the personal page of the letter from the teachers are generally, for the most part, better crafted than I see from the employers. Sometimes the employers don't put as much time into the letter. They don't know really how to support the child, the student in that letter like you do. So if you're going to use that for the personal page, it needs to be well done, and you might have to give some guidance if that's what you choose to use.
Mm-hmm. All right, so personal page. Again, added value, like we talked about earlier, or like you hear Mr. Benson talk about a lot if you're a marketing plan guru. You want to add value to this. It kind of goes back to the same thing I was saying a minute ago. I'm sure John is a great FFA kid and a good person to have as a chapter president. But again, this is about his proficiency. So if you're putting pictures and stuff in there, I mean, I would, if you've got one of him in official dress where it's at his banquet or something, that's fine. But I would fill most of this page with stuff that adds value to the proficiency application. And whereas this is only worth 3 points, sometimes it comes down to a point or two. So you don't need to lose points here. These are points to be lost. They're yours already. So don't lose them by just having one picture of the kid or a collage of pictures that don't really say anything about his project. So you can see a good examples, maybe an extra page of data collection, reports from an experiment, copies of soil samples, maybe other pictures that you couldn't put in the photos, a flyer that's used to drum up business, whether it's for a landscape, business that the kid has or something else. You could take newspaper articles and put them on here, figure out how to scan them in, make them smaller. That way you can still read the writing, but you can see that maybe they have an article or something about their SAE project. If anybody else has got some good examples of things to put on a personal page, speak up now or type them in the chat box. It's like you've come this far. Finish out the application with a decent personal page. Because those of you that are looking to compete nationally, those really competitive ones may come down to a point to a half point. So you certainly don't want to lose it on something as easy as the personal page. Agri-science project, we printed the research poster and used that. Mr. Benson, did you have anything to add on the personal page?
A lot of times we see people put a number of pictures on a personal page, sometimes without captions. Sometimes you don't know what's really going on. Sometimes you need to be selective and find pictures that really support the project. And I think they do need captions. Sometimes the captions are written so small that you can't really read because you're trying to squeeze too much in, and more is not always better. So, you know, on that personal page, take your time and have some other eyes on it too. Like, what do you think of this page? Be critical and tell me what you think. Because sometimes you've just gotten to the end of this application and you feel like you just want to be done. And like whatever the student may put together is like, okay, good, let's get the signatures on it and get this off. But sometimes it's a point that separates moving on or not, or winning the nation or not. So just put a few extra sets of eyes on it and get some critiquing done on that page before you send it in.
Any other questions? Either about this section or overall that maybe you thought of after we passed a section of the rubric or the application that you want to come back to and ask? I figure right now it's what,